of COVID-19. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Grace Dambata Chaine. My specialty is in medicinal chemistry at PhD level, and also teacher by profession and director research, Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute. Yeah, when you say that in the room here, probably you've talked of a certain percentage, but I would say if you took tea or coffee, or if you had that breakfast with the onion or tomato, you took a herb. So to me, unless somebody didn't have anything, because the challenge is that we don't know what the definition of herbal medicine is. By WHO's definition, if you check it out, it includes all those things you take as beverages. So I think for that reason, you know where you are, you know. What was the other question?
Is it a cure? We want to understand, and also your presentation that you have around the herbal remedies.
For something to be defined as a cure, there must be scientific evidence where you identify the enemy. In this time, the enemy we're talking about is COVID, that coronavirus to COVID-19. Someone would articulate its etiology very well, and science would really show us where to hit. Like you hear of some organisms, you know, some medications hit probably the cell wall, you make the organism leak. In terms of the coronavirus too, you see it has that coat with those hooks. Should you punch that coat, definitely you're immobilizing the virus. So for a herbal remedy to be defined as a cure, that science should be laid out. And yeah, cures can be there. We focus on herbal, but I would prefer we talk of natural products. Because when you say herbs, somebody thinks of a plant. But we have insects, you know? We have insects which have venom. Insects are natural. I will cite insects like wasp. We have other agencies like snakes. The snake venom is the origin of captopril, which is used in fighting COVID-19, fighting the congestion in the lungs. So I think we need to really look at natural products, not herbs per se, because nature is so rich. It has animals, it has plants, it has minerals. So yes, from the natural world, you can get a cure. But of course, value would have been added. Like if we look at Artemisia annua, a Chinese plant from which we get artemisinin. We're talking of Artemether, we're talking of, you know, these are the first standard of care of malaria here in the country, and it originates from a herb. So the issue cure, yes, it can be possible, but one should be able to explain, and explain in a language that is understood across the board. Yes?
Thank you very much. Dr. Nambatia, this is Emmanuel Ainebiona, the spokesperson, Ministry of Health. Yeah. I'm sorry I joined a bit late, but I'm catching up with the discussion. I wanted to know whether there is any approved, since you are the head of the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute, whether you have approved any locally developed treatment for COVID. Thank you.
Okay, here in Uganda, when we talk of approval, approval is at various levels. Let me first take you through the chain of approval. All people in the cascade of approving, like the institution I'm heading, you present your sample, and our mandate is to ensure that it's purely natural, that it's like you've not just picked something from the pharmacy. We look out for those indicators for natural, what we call, they could be minerals, they could be plant components. Then we relay your product to National Drug Authority, which has capability of ensuring that you've not bought synthetic medicine and mixed it with the herbal. And this has happened where National Drug Authority looked at samples propagated in the market as libido for men, sexual whatever, and found that these products were adulterated with sildenafil, and a publication is there. So NDA goes to do that due diligence, and they are well equipped for that. Okay, I should mention I'm a board member of National Drug Authority to represent research in natural medicine. So from there, National Drug Authority may also send you to government analytical labs to ensure that your product in the bottle doesn't have microbiology contamination like E. coli and other organisms. Then at that short step, which may go through like 3 months, your product can be labeled as notified, and it's available on the market for use. So in that category, there are products that have gone through such a process and available for use, but of course, more information has to be gathered because that is a first step in the journey. You still have to go further and do what they call registration and probably reach that level of even getting your medicine across the borders. So at the moment, notified products that can be useful, I say useful, not cure, because at notified level, you've not yet proven cure, are there in the market, and our institution has one notified product, which is well indicated for chest infections. This is a product made from a renowned plant called Wabugia ugandensis, and we wouldn't say it's a cure, but of course we look out to see as patients take it, because we get people who really, we register their status, we have that arrangement, they take, they use, it's a process that will take now maybe another year, that one is in process. But when we go to the level of cure, we have a product notified again by NDA, but registered officially for clinical trial, and I'm the principal investigator. But this work has two principal investigators. I represent the basic sciences. We have another clinician, principal investigator at the other side of Mulago, the director, Lung Institute. And together we have a big team of different specialities, pharmacology, pharmacy, botany. We are really a big team. And this product had to go through the rigors of being evaluated by, regulators like Science and Technology, National Drug Authority, Mulago Research Ethical Committee. And under COVID, these committees were put together to expedite the process. There was a special document or guideline developed by Uganda National Health Research Organization together with NDA and National Council of Science and Technology to really leave the other system of getting research through 10 years. So we had to go through that expedited process and get authorization to clinically test this product on patients in our main national referral hospital. And as I talk, I think we are getting there in terms of getting a full enrollment, because our plan was to enroll 124 patients. But as you know, before the second wave, the patients were almost zero, which means Uganda had managed very well. But now with the second wave, we've been able to enroll, and probably in the coming 1 week, we should have made up the number. And what does that mean? We've discharged quite a good number, over 50%. That means we shall get into a level of analyzing data. And probably in the coming 3 months, we should be getting you the results of, has it been safe and effective? Because that's the question we set out to really answer. So back to the question, there isn't as yet a herbal product or a natural product indicated as a cure. So probably the results will show us something we are yet to see. That's what I can say about that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nambatia. And a reminder, we are streaming on the social media platform of the organizers of this event, which is Waweza in partnership with the Ministry of Health. We are streaming on YouTube, on social media pages of the Ministry of Health and also of Waweza. And we hope that join via YouTube. So thank you very much. We shall listen from Brian Sekayombia, the National Drug Authority representative here today, on the safety of medicine formulations, and also would give us an insight on how these drugs get on our national drug register, and also the processes for the vaccines. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Inaviona, and the colleagues, the panelists. Mine is going to be really brief, but I'll try to give an insight on the topic briefly, but again also to share on some of the things Mr. Inaviona has asked. Thank you, Dr. Nambatia, for highlighting on the herbal medicines, and Dr. Nambatia has clearly indicated some of what is in NDA's docket for now as regards herbal medicines and their approvals and their notifications. So I'll start from the fact that why regulation? Why National Drug Authority? Why do we have it as an entity that is within here? To start off, I'll indicate that National Drug Authority is an entity that was established by an act of parliament.
Mr. Brian, you have to speak up because of the mass effect.
Okay.
We need audio to go through.
I get it. That's why I was trying to make sure I'm audible enough.
Thank you.
So, National Drug Authority is an entity that was established by an act of parliament, the National Drug Policy and Authority Act, Cap 206, and it was established to ensure that all Ugandans, including their animals, have safe, effective, and quality medicines. That's their main mandate, and everything they do lies around there. So many things they do lie within that, and as I'm speaking around this, you realize I'll be answering Mr. Inobiona's question of how do we get them on the market and how safe are they. So I'll start by indicating to all those who are listening in and those who are watching that drugs are not ordinary consumer goods. Drugs, it's common that not all consumers who go into take particular drugs have the capacity to know which drug and how to take it, how to use it. Many of the people cannot even ascertain the exact benefits and the risks these drugs pose. Now, someone could say the technical people have it all. No, even the technical people have some gaps that need to be filled by particular people, particular professionals. So because of that, because drugs, I've said, are not like any other consumer goods, there needs to be someone to protect the user of this particular product. Where does regulation come from? Regulation has come from mistakes that have happened in the past. There are mistakes that happened so many years ago that caused for someone to think about having drug production, drug use, drug development, drug distribution regulated. I won't go into that story. So, and that's how NDA comes in and says, oh, okay, fine. Ugandans will use medicines, our animals use medicines, so there needs to be someone to guard between the user, the manufacturer, the distributor, and the seller of these particular products. And that's where National Drug Authority comes in. And how does National Drug Authority achieve the safety, efficacy, and quality? And note that as I explain this, I'm answering Mr. Inebiona's question. One, National Drug Authority licenses And how does it license? It licenses the manufacturer of the drug, whether external to Uganda or internal to Uganda. And when they license this person, it means that this person manufactures these products based on standards that are established, and this particular product is safe for the Ugandan to consume. So you're given that license, which we call a good manufacturing practice license, after ascertaining that the product you produce is safe for the Ugandan public. Then we license the people who sell these medicines, the distributors, the wholesalers, the retailers. We ensure that these people have places that are safe to have these products in those places, and these people have capacity to give the medicines to the person who's going to consume the medicine. That is, the person, they have capacity to dispense as directed by the prescribers of these medicines. So we license them based on that. We know their place is safe, the people in there are safe, and they have the expertise to give out these medicines. So we give them also licenses. Then two, I've talked about licensure, now I say about registration. Now, before even you think about bringing in a product into Uganda, or before you think about producing a product in the country, product I'm meaning drugs. I hope I'm not confused. I don't confuse people there. When I say before you bring in a medicine or you produce a medicine in Uganda, you have to give us information about this medicine. You tell us about how did you produce, how did you study about this product, how did you end up to where it is at that particular moment. So we give this information. We look at all these aspects, and mainly what we are looking out is to assess for safety, to assess for efficacy, and to assess for quality. And when we're in agreement with you, the person thinking of manufacturing, or the person who thinks of bringing the product into the country, then we can authorize your product to be allowed onto the National Drug Authority register. The process for herbal medicines, especially those internal, is a bit different, and here we call it notification. So when we've agreed with you, because many times we might have questions here and there, and then we share with you, and then when we've agreed, that's when such a product can be authorized to come into the country or to be produced into the country. So, one, we will license the manufacturer, we will license the seller, but then we have to first have made sure that this person's product is on the National Drug Authority register. So now we've registered, we've licensed. But then, now after the product has come into the country, it is registered, it's in the country, we don't stop. We continue to monitor this particular product. When the product is on the market, we go, because like I said, medicines are not like other consumer goods. I could have studied so much about this medicine and I've given you everything that this medicine can do. When it gets into the Ugandan population, it starts causing other effects that we did not identify. So as an entity, we follow up these products, each product throughout the market. And what are we looking out for? For those things that we did not identify at registration, at production, or even during the studies, which Dr. Nambata called trials, clinical trials. So we monitor for some of these effects that come through. But not only do we monitor for effects, sometimes we even monitor for those products that could have seeped through into the market and they are not of the desired quality. And this is an activity we do all the way through, year in, year out, to make sure that this product that we know is on the market still maintains the quality that is indicated throughout the life on the market. If you tell me the product is supposed to be this good for 2 years on the market, I need to make sure that for the 2 years it's on the market, it is that good for the consumer who's going to take that product. And then finally, we also monitor the effects that may not be desired that we get from these products on the market. So we also note. So when someone gives us a product and we see it's okay, it's work, but then there are those effects that we may not have seen that could not be desired. We also monitor, and if these effects outweigh the benefits for which the product was put on the market, then decisions work with the Ministry of Health can be taken about this particular product and its existence in the country. So in short, basically that's why regulation comes in everything that we call a medicine within the country. And as such, that's how you find us getting involved in most of the tables that involve working with medicines and their safety and how we can ensure that you and me and the animals we have are safe for this country. Because we have someone to talk about aspects of self-medication. I won't go into the nitty-gritties of use of medicines, but I'll add up when she comes up on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there are a number of questions that are coming through. Sorry. Thank you very much. And there are questions coming through Zoom, but this will be addressed by the team that has come from the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda. So we can hear from Pamela Achi, and one of the questions that has come through Zoom is, what is the PSFU's position on Covidex? Is it safe and effective? And are there any studies that have been done on its efficacy? So in that regard, Pamela, you will be taking us through we are faced with the COVID situation, and also people are currently doing home-based care. This involves personally, if I have a patient, I will walk into a pharmacy to pick a drug, and some are not even prescribed by a physician. Either a friend who has previously suffered COVID shared with me their prescription. So what is the expert advice on issues to do with community prescription, and what drugs should we watch out that are being abused during this period? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Aine and colleagues from the different places for organizing this event. My name is Pamela Achi, the president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda. And with me, I have colleagues from the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda that probably at a later time will be able to comment on some of the issues we are discussing. Just briefly to let you know that the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda is a government entity that is established by an act of parliament to regulate and ensure the practice of pharmacy in Uganda is done in a well and in a professional manner. So that is what the society is about. It has over 1,200 members who are pharmacists working in various places, of course in academia, which are teaching institutions in this country. We have those who are involved in manufacturing, and you know we have very many local industries here in Uganda that manufacture medicine, so you'll find colleagues in these areas. We have the public health specialists that are people like us working with the Ministry of Health, handling HIV, malaria, and TB, but now we are also talking about COVID. However, we also have many who are in community pharmacy, which I think form the basis of today's discussion on self-medication and what would actually be the role of community pharmacies on self-medication. So what is self-medication? We probably understand it is a very simple term, and I know many of us in one way or another have probably been guilty of self-medication. It is a common practice, not only in Uganda, but in very many other places. Self-medication simply means the use of medicine to treat a self-diagnosed condition, self-diagnosed. And medicine has a very broad term. And if you refer to what the guidance WHO provides, it is any substance or combination of substances that are used to diagnose, to treat, and manage a number of conditions. So what my colleagues here, like Dr. Nambatia have mentioned, that when you take your jinga to alleviate certain symptoms, it would actually be referred as a medicine. So there are combinations. And while we speak about this now, you begin to think about COVID in terms of what have we used to manage COVID. So self-medication has a negative connotation. However, there are some benefits of self-medication. Number one is that there is increase in access to medication. And I know many of you here, or all of us here, if you, for example, want medicine, you'll be able to access it. Go to a place and access medicine for headache, and you'll treat that headache. So there's a benefit. So you have relief from that headache. And that is an immediate benefit to you. Of course, it also shows your active role as a patient and as a member of the public in your own health, that when you feel unwell, you are actually taking a step to access treatment, which is a positive thing. But also we know that we cannot all take every single ailment to a health professional or to a doctor or to a clinician. And I think we've had a classic example of COVID that we may not all visit. So the immediate places that people refer to seek treatment would actually be a community pharmacy, because I want to get medicine. So the doctors that are in health facilities, I think we are reserving them to actually handle, in this case, conditions that are classified as severe. And I think we have guidance on those. Of course, self-medication has a benefit. It reduces government expenditure on health medicines. And of course, it means that the public is able to fund part of the cost of the health care. That said, self-medication is a problem. And I think many of us here can witness to that. I remember the first week, last 2 weeks when the cases started rising. People started plucking all sorts of plans to actually treat COVID. Today somebody says, I want to use X. The next day they say, this is the plant. And many of them keep on clarifying, no, this is the correct one. No, the other one is the wrong one. But people have already taken some of these things. Myself, I received something that was sent to me that, no, take this, it will help for a patient. And I put it aside, and I actually asked the pharmacist, who's a pharmacognosis specialist in plant-based medicine, what this is. And they were able to explain what they were, and indeed it was the wrong formulation. So it is not only happening with herbal medicine, but also in terms of conventional medicine. Sometimes in self-medication, we buy the wrong medicine many times to actually treat a condition. So you buy the wrong medicine, but also secondly, you're actually treating the wrong condition. Right now we are focusing on COVID, but we have malaria. We have all the other diseases not suppressed. They are still happening in the same way that COVID is happening. So as a member of the public, how are we able to tell that what I am suffering from is actually not COVID, but something different that I need to handle in a different way? But because of self-medication, if I felt I have headache, I will go to the pharmacy and buy Panadol or any painkiller that I think can actually relieve me from this headache. And I also know that often Panadol is used as a very laughable drug. Laughable. I went to the hospital and I was given only Panadol. There's no drug that is only this. There's no single drug. All medicines are toxic unless it is used in a prescribed manner. Panadol in itself has a problem of causing liver toxicity, and many of us probably are not aware of that. And they recommend take for a few days. Take for maximum of 3 days. Why? Because for continued use of this medicine predisposes you to certain side effects. And so it is important that we actually follow prescriptions when we are actually given medicine for a drug that we look at as simple as Panadol, but it is not simple. Number two is that when you go for self-medication, you delay to seek medical help. And I think we have also seen in this COVID situation. The thing with COVID is that it's a complex situation that we have, I believe with guidance from the Ministry of Health, that certain symptoms that are mild should be managed from home for a good cause. You have a headache, you have, some are even asymptomatic. They say try to manage this from home. However, if you have other complications, for example, there are issues to do with breathing, and chest pain, then these are some of the issues that need to be referred. So we are also depending on the public that we are able to tell some of these danger signs. But what is happening now is that people are using referral prescriptions on WhatsApp. Because my patient took drug A, therefore, I can refer it to the entire family or to my friends and to my relatives. And they say, use this because I used it the other time and I got relief. Even though medicine may be used across all groups of people, it is important that we are assessed by a health professional to ensure that the drug that you're taking is actually good for you. What is good, for example, for my colleague here may not necessarily be good for me. We have different stages of functionality of our body parts. For example, you need your kidney to be assessed to see that you can actually be able to take certain medicine. And this is why you need to see a health professional to be able to guide on some of this prescription medicine. So if we do not do that, then we continue to take medicine and they harm our body. But sometimes because we do not feel the harm directly, we imagine that no, we are actually safe. And self-medication, many times also we see that drugs are incorrectly administered in very many wrong ways. Something that someone is supposed to take, for example, maybe under the tongue, you're probably taking it through the mouth. And you will not be able to achieve the correct impact of that medicine and achieve, a cure for the treatment that you're actually trying to treat. Treatment also under self-medication can mask the disease. Because I felt headache, I took Panadol, I feel better for 2 or 3 days. Immediately after that, the sickness is back and you are feeling unwell, which is why we think self-medication is something not very simple, but also we need to pay attention to the problem and try to address that. Of course, there is risk of dependency on the medicine. We've had people who are taking drugs that have put them in a situation where they are now addicted. Because you walk into the pharmacy and you pick the medicine and say, no, I want this. Or I cannot sleep. I want this. Give me this medicine. When you try to probe, I've interacted with some members of the public, you try to probe, what do you use this medicine for? The question sounds offensive. No, give it to me. I know what I'm going to do with it. I've been using this for a long time. I decide how I use it. I want this particular drug. Give it to me. We have been guilty of this. And I think this COVID brings to light a lot of problems as far as self-medication, but also, I would say, patient-centered prescription. Because going to a pharmacy is not enough. Because people go to the pharmacy with a preconceived mind. If they don't have a prescription on paper provided by a health professional, then they have it in their head. I want this medicine, give it to me. So it is important that we actually listen to the frontline health workers, listen to the people that are actually safeguarding this medicine, because they're not only taking care, of selling medicine, but also looking at our own interest as members of the public. We have used antibiotics to treat COVID, very many. Everybody knows now what azithromycin is. Everybody knows, and I believe they're in our homes. But azithromycin, NDA will tell you it is a prescription drug that should not just be used by everybody rampantly. But I can also understand the guidance provided by Ministry of Health, that because we are caught up in COVID, certain prescriptions were provided by Ministry of Health, which I believe all of us received, to guide and help the public access some of these medicines. But that notwithstanding, we have still continued to misuse antibiotics. And trust me, the level of antibiotic resistance that we have in this country is a big problem. Resistance is not just something that the researchers say is resistant. It means when I treat you with it next time, you will not heal. It means you will not heal. and you start asking for more expensive medicine, and they say, no, this facility that government has does not have this medicine. They can't even give me X, Y, Z. But because we've abused the already effective medicine. And like my colleagues have mentioned, research in medicines take a very long time. So the rate at which we are abusing the medicine is not equivalent to the rate at which we are actually finding new formulations. So in terms of self-medication, it is a very difficult situation. It is a risky situation. And we ask that the public will try as much as possible to avoid self-medication and referral or prescription among families and among members. It is important we consult. I know we have a number of contacts available. You can consult on the phone and try to actually get guidance on your medication. But also, lastly, I think what is important is to empower people to report side effects related to medicine, more so during this time of COVID. And I know ND has provided certain guidance and links on where to report issues related to adverse events associated with use of some of these medications. So continue to say, let us avoid issues of self-medication, not just for conventional medicine that you find in pharmacies, but also for the herbs we are taking, because people have got ulcers now from the herbs we are taking. Thank you.
Mera Achi, there are a number of questions that are coming in, and most of them tend to focus for clarity on the use of Covidex to treat COVID. Is it authorized to be used by the public? And also some question is, what medicine for COVID is available in pharmacies for low-income countrymen who cannot afford highly priced Western drugs? Now that Covidex is already on market and people are using it, how far have you gone towards clinical trials and authorization? Then I think this will be later answered by Dr. Grace Nambatia. How much is government investing in funding research for the COVID-19 vaccine and cure? I know you sit on the presidential initiative preside, so you maybe have information on how much is being invested in this research. So we have other panelists today. We have Peter Ahabwe, and also we have, I think there are people who are sharing the name on this panel. Winnie Nambatia. So I will give you an opportunity to make remarks on the issue of antimicrobial resistance, because I don't know whether there is any scientific research that is monitoring the likely escalation of antimicrobial resistance. And also Peter Ahabwe, you will also be talking about maybe any mechanisms. I know you also have an interest in IT. How do we track dispensing of these drugs according to the classes? And I hope Brian will also be telling us about what are the acceptable drugs that I can walk into a pharmacy and get over the counter, and what are these classes, and are there any penalties for pharmacies that may be selling either class A drugs, and how do you monitor that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is Winnie Nambatia, a clinical pharmacist and a lecturer at Makerere University. I'll first comment on a question with regards to the different medications that have been recommended for the management of COVID-19. So the Ministry of Health has the two technical working committees, and one is called the Case Management Committee, and the other one is called the Clinical Care Technical Working Committee. So both these committees came up with management guidelines for the management of COVID-19, And there's section for management of COVID-19 while in admission. And then there is also a section of management of COVID-19 in home-based care. So I'll comment with first about home-based care. So the entry into home-based care is based on a positive laboratory test, and then the clinician that delivers the positive result to the patient is responsible for screening the patient for eligibility of the about 4 criteria, and one of them is that the patient has symptoms whether mild or severe. The patient has no symptoms for mild or severe COVID-19, and then the patient has no known risk of developing complications or progressing to severe COVID-19. And then there is a designated healthy adult who is going to provide care and support to this patient. And then the patient lives in a home that meets the criteria for home-based care. And then the last one is that the patient demonstrates understanding the rationale why people have to be kept in home-based care. So after all these have been assessed, this patient is provided with a prescription for their management while in home-based care. And according to these guidelines, this patient is provided with paracetamol, 1 gram, which is to be taken 3 times a day for 3 days. And re-echoing what my colleague, Ms. Pamela, mentioned, sometimes when it's written as 1 gram TDS or 3 times a day, many of us interpret that as morning, afternoon, and evening, which is very dangerous. Drugs have to be taken throughout the 24 hours. So when they tell you 3 times a day, that means you have to take the medicine 8 hourly. So you basically have to count the 8th hour and you take the medication. And then the guidelines also provide for the usage of vitamin D, and this is only after confirmation with a laboratory test that you are deficient of this vitamin. And then also you can use nasal decongestant. So you can see that based on the guidelines for home-based care, there is no usage of azithromycin or any kind of antibiotic because there is no rationale to prescribe these medications. My colleague Peter Ahawe is part of the epidemic center at EOC, so he'll comment more on the antimicrobial resistance. I just wanted to mention some of the common effects of many of the drugs that we self-medicate with. Now, for example, many of the people in the community pharmacies are procuring or buying zinc. So zinc may be a simple drug to a member of the community, but it has terrible side effects, for example, neurologic deterioration. And that means that the functionality of your nerves is going down without you knowing. So at a later stage, after COVID-19 has actually gone off the media, nobody's talking about it, you'll have problems with your nerves. And then for the women that are breastfeeding, this medication is detected in the breast milk, so you can actually transfer this drug to your child, which child has no capacity to metabolize or break down this medication. So that's one of the danger signs for zinc that many of the people are procuring. Then we have vitamin C. So vitamin C also seems like a simple drug that you keep chewing at, but in a later stage, you're going to have problems with your kidney, and you'll have also kidney stones. So these kidney stones are mainly crystals that form in your kidney, and they are very painful to pass. Dexamethasone too, that people are procuring, is a dangerous drug for all of us, because with self-medication, many of the people don't check themselves for comorbidities. And you see from research and Ministry of Health reports that there is an increase in diabetes. And dexamethasone has that side effect of increasing your blood sugars or blood glucose. So it predisposes you to diabetes. So we need to take this into consideration. Then azithromycin, one of the drugs that people are buying so much too, has the effect on the heart. So in the long run, as you keep taking the azithromycin, you're going to develop cardiac problems. You're going to have increased heart rates. You're going to have several other problems affecting your heart functionality. Then some people are going to usually develop metallic tests after taking azithromycin chronically, and there are also reports of azithromycin affecting the liver and the kidney. So my colleague will just say something on antimicrobial resistance.
Thank you very much, Winnie Nambatia. We can hear from Peter Ahabwe, largely on antibiotics resistance. Sometimes we use so technical words. Antimicrobial resistance, a lay person might not understand this. So let him give us a quick highlight. Then I'll invite questions from the journalists who are present in the room who would want clarity on specific issues. Because this is a briefing where we would, working with Kwaweza as the Ministry of Health, would want to know what are some of the myths and misconceptions that are out there on medication. Just a few weeks back, there are a lot of plans, a lot of things, including this COVID-19. I am telling you now, people have stocks, and people are even selling it. It is like now the gold at the moment. So we need clarity. I hope Professor Patrick will be joining us. I don't know whether he's already on Zoom. So we need to get into understanding these herbal remedies, and there are also others. And sometimes each and every one of us is tempted to try. You know, disparate situations call for disparate interventions. So we need to get these issues very well. So Peter Ahabu, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you to Weza for the platform. Again, I'm Peter Babigumira Ahabwe, and I'm a pharmacist, but currently I serve as a technical advisor for emergency preparedness and response with the Emergency Operations Center of the Ministry of Health. So first of all, the government of Uganda has joined the international community in the world's commitment to combat antimicrobial resistance. And basically, with continued use of antibiotics naturally, it has been found and it's expected that we will become resistant to these drugs that are life-saving drugs. They have made surgery possible and things of the sort. This has worsened even more during the COVID-19 pandemic because for many, study found that 7% of hospitalized patients and 14% of ward or ICU patients had co-infection, that is COVID and another disease. But we also have very many people who are vulnerable to secondary infection with bacteria. So initially we were struggling just to get people to use antibiotics the right way, the healthcare workers, the community. But because of the mental fatigue and the fast-paced nature of COVID, many health workers eventually found themselves unable to adhere to the antimicrobial stewardship policies. But even in the community, we found people stockpiling drugs. Last year, they were stockpiling antibiotics because everyone was saying, it will be a lockdown, I'll be stuck at home. And some of them made what I would say losses because they had expiries. And sometimes, there's this mental pressure of, now I bought these drugs, somehow I have to use them. So when a neighbor says they are not feeling well, you suggest I took this, maybe it can work. And I think Winnie hinted on one of these issues of self-prescribing when people share drugs. Yet we have different physics, different sexes, and someone is breastfeeding, another one maybe is obese, and now you're sharing drugs, or you're self-prescribing, or you're even prescribing for your neighbors. So we find that with time you have increased resistance to antibiotics, and even if we had some policy options at the start, many of these were affected through the pandemic. For example, public awareness, training and education almost ground to a stop because people were all in their homes and there were no more workshops, no more trainings, maybe where you'd get a patient talk at the hospital. people are keeping inside. Research kind of geared more towards COVID as well. And even if it wasn't, many of the people who are doing researches and recruiting participants had to put their work on a pause. But on the bright side, infection prevention and control really soared during the COVID pandemic. And some countries, such as Taiwan, initial data showed that where the heavy emphasis on washing our hands and using the sanitizers seems to be helping to reduce what we call nosocomial infections. These are infections you get when you're in a health facility from your doctor or from your fellow health seeking, the person who is also going to get medical care. So while IPC was strengthened, the other areas kind of suffered. So really this is a call, again, self-prescribing has so many dangers, like my colleagues have mentioned. But very, very important is that there is a silent battle we are fighting against drug resistance. Someone mentioned low middle income, colleague who can't afford Western medicine. It will get worse with AMR. Even that which you can afford right now, once it stops becoming effective, we will have to resort to more expensive drugs from the start. You won't start slowly on amoxil. Let's first try and see what happens. Maybe let's do Cipro. Now we'll be starting you off on the very expensive drugs, so it will get worse. So I call on the public to please know that while we're fighting COVID, antimicrobial drug resistance in general is real. Let's use the resources provided by MOH, NDA. There's a lot of public information available on AMR. Let's avoid self-prescribing, especially these antibiotics, because we'll just be spreading resistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter Ahabwe. Before we go to the Q&A from the journalists who are within the room, since the microphone is still close to Winnie Nambatia, there's a question coming from a journalist, Norbert Atkunda, who is a monitor journalist. She's joining us via the Zoom platform. She's asking, why is azithromycin not prescribed for those who are under home-based care? And she is saying that you said it ends up in breast milk. Should COVID-positive breastfeeding mothers stop breastfeeding their babies if they are taking these drugs like azithromycin? That is one of the questions. Please answer it. Then we shall open up to the journalists who are here, and also there are a number of questions that have come through the Zoom platform. We shall be able to take them, then have all of the panels respond to each of the questions. So I hope you'll be noting. And just a reminder to the viewers on YouTube, we have Dr. Nambatia Grace, who heads the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute, which is a Ministry of Health affiliate agency. We have the president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda, Pamela Achi. We shall also be joined by Professor Ogwang. I think he's already on Zoom. We also have Brian Sekayombia from the National Drug Authority, and also the one who is going to speak, who has just spoken, Peter Ahabwe and Winnie Nambatia, and myself, Emmanuel Ainebiona, and I'll be taking all the questions because I see there are also questions on the eligibility of vaccination. We are resuming next week. All that will be clarified. So allow me, welcome Winnie to respond to that question on breast milk and breastfeeding mothers.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the person who asked the question. So currently, azithromycin is not part of the home-based care because of its terrible side effect, which is the cardiotoxicity. Like, it has bad effects on the heart. So while the patient in home-based care is taking their medications, there are no resources to monitor cardiac activity. So it's hard to tell whether your heart is functioning really well or it's having a problem. So it's best not to have this. And also the other thing is that according to the Uganda management guidelines, home management is for those patients that don't have moderate or severe COVID-19. So basically they can take care of themselves with 3 medications suggested to symptomatically manage COVID-19. Like if you have a fever or a headache, the paracetamol can relieve you of that. And then if you're deficient of the vitamin D because you have less exposure to the sun, you can get this supplementation, and also nasal decongestants to help you breathe easily. And for the second question that she posed with regards to the medication passing through milk to the baby, this is why the guidelines suggest that it is a health worker that comes to assess the COVID-19 patient. So when they find you pregnant, they'll give you a different alternative. They'll give you an alternative to a medication that is passed through breast milk. For example, the zinc case. You can actually get zinc from other sources like food. Dr. Nambatia can comment on that. You can get it from red meat. You can get it from fish. You can also get it from plants. So there are alternatives. That's why we encourage you to speak to your doctor, or you can call on any nearby pharmacist to give you more guidance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now going to open questions to the journalists within the room. Please say your name, the media house you work for, and we are having about 10 minutes to have this done. So by raise of your hand, yes, please. Let's begin with Edward.
I know there's supposed to be the professor demystifying it, but people are taking Covidex, and there is a fine line between people distinguishing between, for example, boo-boo and because they're saying this is ours, we need to support it and what have you. So when you try to say it needs approval, people are saying, well, you people are leaning towards the West. How come you believe those people and then you don't believe ours? So please demystify this thing. Let people get to have the right information before they consume it, because we are stuck.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Dennis Kato. I work with Channel 44 TV and High Fast Media Online. Mine is a comment on the issue of self-medication. In my view, I think many people fear to go to medical facilities because of the exorbitant fees they charge against them. For instance, in this current COVID, people have opted to go for the traditional drugs because of that exorbitant fees they normally ask them to pay. And even going forward, when you look at some of the simple issues that when someone decides to go for self-medication, like someone is feeling headache, small malaria, you can still go at the clinic, maybe a pharmacy, you get tablets, and you can cure yourself. There are even pregnant women sometimes fear to go in the hospitals because they fear to be charged heavily. Don't you think that one is also an issue to comment about it?
Okay, thank you. My name is Patrick Onen. I work for the Associated Press. My question goes to Dr. Grace. What are the current dangers posed by people self-medicating? especially when it comes to steaming in the country as with the COVID cases such.
My name is Flavia Nasaka. I work with Uganda Radio Network. My question is to the Pharmaceutical Society. I would like to know how you're reining in on pharmacies that are giving us medicine combos, because you go asking for zinc, then they tell you it's a combination, and they give you a lot of other medicines. How are you reining in as a regulator? Also to the Drug Authority, I would like to know under what circumstances do you approve drugs for emergency use, because we know that WHO does this. How does it happen with NDA? Then on the alternative medicines, on this study by Twaweza, we are seeing that people are increasingly using herbal remedies. How is the chemotherapeutics helping them? Because they are already using them, how do you ensure that they safely use these components?
Thank you very much. My name is Aloysius Biamkama. I work with Radio Mama. One is a concern from public that National Drug Authority delays to approve the local manufacturers of medicine because of Western intervention. You will clarify on that. Then we have seen on use of course, self-medication using local herbs. I happen to come from a place which is a bit congested, and people are steaming. They are buying all sorts of herbs. But here we have seen the negative part of them. My question is for example, like steaming, important? Let us tell people if they are to use them, to what extent, but not looking at the negative side. But also, have we researched why they are using these herbs? Because now the research is telling us a few people go to hospitals, recognized hospitals. Don't you think it is the fees, like my colleague has raised, fearing to pay? Like we had an interview yesterday whereby one is fearing actually to sell almost the land to go to hospital rather than instead is resuming to use of these herbs. So you could tell the public to what extent they should maybe use these herbs. Thank you.
My name is Joel Tenyo from the New Vision. Listening to the doctors, it seems our house is on fire regarding the use and administration of medicines. I've been to Tanzania before, and you cannot order for a drug the way we order if we are ordering for sweets. And my question goes to Brian. What is our roadmap in this country? When are we going to put our house in order? Because we must start from somewhere, and I strongly believe that is where we should start from. Why can't government put in place regulations where you cannot just simply go and buy medicine unless you have a prescription from a doctor? Thank you.
Okay. My concern is like I just wanted you experts to be open, to open up. Really, you tell Ugandans the truth. What is bad with steaming? What is so bad with steaming? What is so bad with me taking my herbal medicine, my mururuza? We just wanted you to open up.
If Professor is already on Zoom, I would like to give him the first opportunity. Professor Patrick Ogwang, are you already with us? If he's already with us, I would like him to go first. It's not on. Okay, thank you very much. So the questions so far that have been received through Zoom, also include the following. NDA, don't you think we could use self-medication as a strategy in such a time when all facilities are overwhelmed, others are just exploiting Ugandans? You make the signs clear to the public, then specify the medicines to buy. I hope at the end of this presentation, Ministry of Health will guide us on who is eligible for vaccination. How many waves of COVID are available? How prepared are we to manage these waves? Clarity. Does this mean that we do not take zinc daily and also vitamin C supplements? Some doctors are prescribing these zinc vitamins. What do we do about it? Those are the questions coming through Zoom. The other questions are, so there needs to be clarity on Covidex. There's here, NDA is doing a commendable job. However, there is inadequate information for the ordinary citizens and have desperately led people to resort to traditional approach. We need to focus on credible information dissemination by medical experts. I hope today we have managed to do that, and we will continue to have such engagements as the Ministry of Health working with our partners like Twaweza. There's another question. Why are we having issues of using natural remedies which have lower side effects on the human body to prevent and manage COVID? Can they not work in tandem with Western medicine? The reason people are self-medicating is attributed to the attitude to people have towards our healthcare system. So these are some of the questions that have come through Zoom, coupled with the questions that have been asked by the journalists in the room. So I will begin with Dr. Grace Nambatia to tackle the questions that are addressed to her and also these natural remedies. Because I can tell you almost each household is hunting for Covidex. And also there are some plants, now people on social media are always asking which is the latest herb they can look for. So we need proper guidance. One, what I'm understanding is that there is not yet an approved herbal remedy locally developed. That is clear to me. But there is no clarity on whether there is danger in the people who are on people who are using, for instance, Covidex. There is also that developed by the National Chemotherapeutics Institute, the Cypress. I hope you will talk about those ones you've developed during this period, because I have personally used Cypress to relieve nasal congestion. So are they already recommended for use? This I got it from you when you presented in one of the strategic meetings on the research you are doing among the natural products. And how is Cypress different from Covidex? Have you, as the National Chemotherapeutics, worked with the developer of Covidex to test its effectiveness? And is it true it treats COVID or it relieves the symptoms? These are some of the issues we need to know. And also, personally, when I was diagnosed with COVID in October last year, I was given azithromycin. Are there any things I should do to avoid the potential side effects? But I'm glad yesterday I had to do a medical checkup and they told me my heart was still functioning normally. But do I need to watch out? Because previously azithromycin was being prescribed for each and every person who was testing COVID. But now with the new clinical guidelines, they have said it's not among those drugs recommended for use. So us who have consumed this drug, what does it mean for us, and how do we avoid the potential side effects that have been highlighted? And also, I want this panel to also give assurance to Ugandans on the issue of the vaccine. There are a lot of distortions that is going around. Personally, I know the vaccine is safe and effective, but now people are saying if you, for instance, you've not tested, you don't need to take the vaccine. So some people who have expert knowledge need to tell us and also help demystify, given that we are having we are resuming vaccination this come Monday, and people need to be encouraged to go for the second dose. The health workers were given an opportunity, but some had not come out to take the vaccine. So we need also you to speak to that. So let me begin with Dr. Grace Nambatia, who is the head of the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute, which is an affiliate of the Ministry of Health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Inebiona. I'll try to address majority of what you've asked me, apart from COVIDX, because at the panel here, I'm with representatives who really issued statements, and I think it will not be appropriate for me. I have my comments on COVIDX, but I cannot bring them out unless the authenticators come out. So I want to play it safe that way. One thing we should be grateful about as Ugandans in this COVID pandemic is that to every cloud there is a silver lining. If COVID was a heavy cloud, the silver lining is Ugandans waking up to the fact that medicines come from nature. You know, this is an area we have always disowned, despised. Some of us have been called witches. And I keep saying I'm a witch with a PhD. Don't quote me, but I've really seen what colonialism did to our country. A country that has it all. If you've traveled the world like I have, you will always come back to agree to one thing, that Uganda is a country of its own class regarding biodiversity. But then you find for every highway you take, people are heavily destroying nature, putting eucalyptus, bamboo, pine, breaking stones, busy destroying the environment, but still, Uganda's environment is still delivering. So to me, I think the world was crashing. COVID came to say, be still and know that I'm God. Remember, if you couldn't even, you find this person not even knowing the anti-malarials are from nature, you know. So for me, I saw that as a blessing in disguise because we've really had milestones, one of them having an act of parliament on traditional and complementary medicine, and the other one to really fund the science, to create PRESIDE, that's Presidential Initiative on Scientific Research. You've been hearing of looking into vitamin D3, because vitamin D3, if you read about it, it can change the game of COVID. This is open in literature, you know. Some countries make it mandatory for anybody above 50 years to supplement with D3, because D3 holds it holds the processes in the body, you know, in harmony. As we age, the body gets to disintegrate, and D3 is one thing. So these things came out, and now as I comment, I'll come to steaming. Because we have been looking at indigenous knowledge as useless, they forget that each culture here had a way of steaming. You know, in Uganda, central region, think they would put up banana peel and lumbugu. At least I saw up seeing that. And they would really boil this, get steam produced, but one wouldn't get into that steam when it's very hot. Because if you go to the, I'll quote scientist I've just interacted with in a webinar before this one. He's a pharmacist and a specialist in drug formulation who shared that there is a publication in Lancet blaming steaming as a possible way sort of damaging the mucosa. Well, this would be because you're looking at steam which is above 100 degrees centigrade. And our people, due to our education system that is examination centered, people don't think out of the box. They hear steaming, they just go full head, 121 degrees centigrade. Of course, you damage your mucosa. So if you're to do something that hails from indigenous knowledge, first get to know how they used to do it. They would boil, steam gets produced, but they will wait for the steam to tone down a bit and then cover this person using a mat. A mat that is locally made, not these plastic mats we are seeing on the market, so that there is a breathing, some steam is getting out, and then this person moderates accordingly. If it's, they wouldn't steam young children, but there would be supervision. So the issue here is to know how to do. There should be SOPs for everything. That's what I can talk about steaming, and it's meant to decongest the nose, not really to be a treatment, so it's not a treatment. And for value addition, we talk of steam, which has been impregnated with volatiles from nature. When I say volatiles, these are things you put on your tea, like lemongrass. If you feel you like the aroma, that aroma can be put in that water, and the steam is loaded with, the aroma is full of small medicinal components. Right here in front of me, I have an aroma, a mixture of extracts from peppermint, mint, and for us there in Wandegea, together with the herbalists, whom we respect, we've, using the technology because we've been funded, this aroma is the modern way, as opposed to steaming. I would, put off my mask, dose my mask, and it keeps fresh. These are mints, the ones you experience when you are taking chewing gum. It makes the mask very fresh. It makes you feel like you really want to be with your mask the whole day. You feel sad when you are putting it off to sleep. But the aroma is medicating you, trying to open your, your airways, making it fresh. But of course, they range in strength. Mr. Ainebiana talked about cypress. This is oil from what we call Christmas tree. But we've cut all the Christmas trees because we want to build these walls around the houses. And this oil, these are not new things. These are things already researched on. These are plants not indigenous here, they are foreign. So you can easily find literature on them. And if you put in Christmas tree oil, check about corona, you will see that it kills coronavirus. The research is already done. But you have the material here. You're not going to claim you are killing because you've not moderated the dose, but at least it gives you an indicator of some form of relief, probably prevention, because for us, our institution is focused a lot on prevention. So we look at that, and I can stand to testify personally, since last year when COVID hit in, 12 months down the line, I've not had a flu or a cold or anything. Meanwhile, I used to have that once in a year. But of course, there is that focus now that ensures that you don't let a flu linger around, because if it lingers around, it's reservoir for those variants you've heard of. If you have somebody, your neighbor having what we commonly call a chivove, that flu, those sinuses, if the virus comes around and it lands into that, it's a recipe for propagating, what they call it, mutation, mutation, the variants come around. So as we talked about the herbalists, what have we done? Yes, this information, I wouldn't say we are generating it primarily. We have local herbalists. For every district, we have an anchor herbalist. And these people came up after President warning them not to start saying cure and cited cinchona tree and how work had to be done to get quinine. They were so obedient. They came to us, produced what they felt they were using for complicated chest problems, and we picked out only 30. We only stopped the queue because we would be overwhelmed with what we would have to do. So for some of what they are using, already established, published about, it's a matter of gathering information, putting together, guiding them to have their formulas notified by NDA, and a number of them have been notified. NDA has done a lot because they have that lab, they've been supported by WHO, and I think in NDA, under the the dummy system or the computer system, you can easily know which hubs have been notified. You can check in there. The lists are there. And Directorate of Industrial Training has also supported us in terms of adding value to those on the market by giving them, they've developed a curriculum called Herbalist, Occupation Herbalist, in a sense that one can come to polish what they are doing. 3 months, we've had 2 graduations. Most of those big names on the market, they've really come through and have a certificate. So that is value added. And on our website, which is ncri.go.ug, you can really see those that have graduated. You hear names, Mama Lususu, whatever. They are no longer the old ones you knew. They really have, it's called a practical assessment skill document in which they can upgrade, because the training there is a module for growing herbs, there is a module for processing them, there is a module for dispensing them. And one can do one module, add on another one, and this one is not only to herbalists, but even your children seated there at homes can come up and do something, get this certificate, so that people don't all just end up for odd jobs wherever they are mistreated. So that's about what we've done with the herbal products, at least linked them to NDA. But there is one, the one that we took through clinical trial, a community-based recipe that people have used over the years, over 20 years in Uganda, using it to manage viral conditions like HIV, hepatitis B. By the way, some people are reactive to ARVs, but I don't know whether there is a follow-up as regarding to how those people can be supported. So for those who don't even have transport to come to Kampala, they react to ARVs. They find their own ways of using those things that we found, and we thought that if it works on some viruses, probably it could really do something on COVID. That's how the research idea started. And then we had to engage communities. This is a product that incidentally is available in all parts of Uganda. So we had to have anchor communities in all the parts of Uganda to get information, because a product that's been used for over 20 years, according to WHO, it has already passed phase 1. You don't have to take it through the intensive phase 1. That's why we had that expedited optimization, because WHO also brought forth new guidelines to make it easy for Africa. This time round, we have a country office here, WHO. It has a docket looking at traditional medicine. They realized that you don't see publications. You don't see, because the standards for clinical trials had always been for the white man, and most research would be from outside, people here engaged just to implement. So the first time WHO engaged us, and it's like this time around they've discovered challenges that are prohibiting production, like you asking us these questions. Because a clinical trial, I think there was a question regarding whether government has put in money and how much. Yes, government has supported research at different fronts. You've heard of the vaccines, homegrown solutions. You've had therapeutics, repurposing of therapeutics, then test kits. And I wouldn't say I know how much money it has put in all that, but get to know it has. But in our docket of the natural, the herbal therapy, it has put in 2.6 billion. But out of that 2.6 billion, you have 740 million for equipments, because you need certain state-of-the-art equipments. You need to analyze. Each herb has a CV. You need to know. For example, when somebody talks of Ntangauzi and the way they are using it, you get to know this Ntangauzi. These machines will help you to know the major components in there. Like in Ntangauzi, you have the gingeros, the shock dose, and these ones, as you optimize combinations, you find the Ntangauzi will be indicated for catarrh. That is the thing when you see that. Rheumatism, nervous disease, gingivitis, toothache, asthma, stroke, constipation, diabetes. Now, a layman is using, when we look at these, the phenolic compounds in there and indicated as antioxidants, you would need an antioxidant for COVID. This is something that removes kachicha from your system. But this use is based on history of use in other countries like India, China 2,000 years ago, where this is used maybe as a food. And when it's used as a food, it's used in very tiny amounts. Now somebody using it to alleviate something, it would require a scientist to look at these components, optimize them, so standardize. The lay public has no means of standardizing, but they are not far from the truth that this thing can help. Remember, you may talk of ginger, but it would be of various varieties. Somebody says, I want indigenous ginger, I want this. So their use is what opens our eyes to where we should really focus. But as a system where the country hadn't even had a policy, the bill we were developing had taken 20 years. It only got assented to on 14th of September, after realizing that the science the country wanted to support could not move without that act of parliament. So this funding was to really start a new venture. And I think you all remember the trial was even launched. People thought they launched a product. What was launched was a trial. Why? Because since time immemorial, we hadn't had scientific validation supported in the country on a natural product, irrespective of the diversity we are having. And we are missing out a lot because there is a plant which is trending with purple flowers. I think you've been seeing it there a lot. This plant is called Verbena officinalis. And, you know, people grapple, they wonder, and what do we have to say about that? When you go to literature and read about what that plant can do, you can cry if you've not been supporting research. The plant does almost everything you're calling symptoms of COVID. The plant tones down those nerves. It tones down depression. It handles upper chest, infections. It does a lot in a sense that if it's standardized, people would get away from overuse of, say, azithromycin, because you would stick to the 3 days or 4 days, 5 days you're given, and you switch to the other one. But then it's not standardized. And it has over 250 species, you know. And they may talk about the good side, but the bad side, a pregnant mother should not use. A breastfeeding mother should not use. It can handle it can handle, it has psychotic influences, it can, seizures, you know, it can tone them down. It's it's a painkiller. So if a plant has those properties and it tranquilizes you and you sleep, you now need to wonder, should a driver use it, you know? So the avalanche of information has come inevitably because COVID is a quick killer and people are getting information. And when we check out, once you have a scientific name, you find that almost anything has been searched on before. You just need to look into it and see what does it have as special, because it's going on Ugandan soils. And now we challenge with, yes, telling people this could be dangerous, fine, because if you ask a Chinese, knowing a medicinal plant is not all to medicine. You need to know, is it male, is it female? Can you combine it with another? So a lot, the medicine is another thing, the medicinal plant is another thing. But here people think, if this medicine does this, and they think they can use it. People are desperate, and actually, I mean, for Uganda in COVID, there is a big challenge in front of us of taking through all these things through the trials. So the trial in Malago is the beginning of a long journey, because that money I've mentioned, one may think, oh, that's a lot of money. But let me tell you quickly what that money is supposed to do, what it has done so far. Community-based products, you must go to the communities. You must map out stakeholders, because you don't only map the users, the leaders, even those who hate herbs. Then you get information. Then you now formulate your hypothesis. Now you come up with a competent proposal, which must pass through the, like I told you about, the Joint Review Committee, yeah? And these committees, Uganda really has thorough committees, let me tell you. They really are thorough. It's unfortunate they've not been being given indigenous work to do. They really took us through community-based. There are issues of intellectual property right. So, and you must go, and it's not cheap, because that alone, I think, may go around 20 million. then registering a trial officially with NDA for $1,000, you know, the figures probably set for the foreign world, but now you're coming in with your local thingy, you have to go through what is available. Insurance, because you're going to do a clinical trial. Insurance is above 10 million, and preclinical studies, quick screening of the safety, that one, you know, like 50 million. Then we go to the clinical trial in Molago, which makes it even cheap. First of all, you're talking about COVID. You have to think about PPEs because the researchers have to be protected. You need a system already accredited so that the infrastructure is already there. The health researchers are there. Remember, these have to be trained. There is GCP training. It should be valid. And of course, the new ones you adopt, you need to get them through training. And then you engage these clinicians who are working on the real patients and who are doing the study. And one of the challenges we've had, because that money is small, because you want your study to be internationally passing, that's our aim. You go through all, you have DSMB and all that, but then you're not paying the researchers commensurate to international level. You have to convince them to work with small pay. You just have to promise them that if it works, it's opening up for Uganda. So I'm happy we have those patriots you're working with, and they're very, very dedicated, hoping that once we come through with an answer, then the real money can come, because I'm telling you, whether you have one patient in Mulago, you'll have to pay the whole fraternity. Yeah, so that's a glimpse of what it takes a bit, but we hail the government of Uganda for this time around they've funded. It's not from foreigners. This time around it's funding Ugandan researchers, and actually as we talk, I think we've now got Dr. Musonera as minister in that category. Just hope for bigger things, because she's well aware of what it should really be. I may digress a bit. I think I messed up a bit because I think you.
Thank you very much. But before
I'm
you
not
leave,
touching COVID.
is how effective marijuana leaves
yes.
and other drugs. You've talked of that Vena something.
Verbena officinalis.
Officinalis.
Kalunsambulira. It's called
yes.
Kalunsambulira.
But also we've seen marijuana leaves.
Yes.
So if you say they have some of the substances that maybe also handle these conditions, what is the general advice to a layman out there who maybe has already harvested these leaves? I saw I was driving towards Entebbe Airport near the airbase. I think this plant is there. I saw very many people harvesting. I don't know whether it was for treatment purposes. So what is the advice? What should people do with these plants at their disposal?
Okay, marijuana, even if you Google now, it's well known as having one of the plants that can handle inflammation. Actually, a human body has what we call cannabinoids. These are nodes, you know, that could be targeted for ways, the way our bodies operate, in a sense that when they're imbalanced, then somebody is sick. And one plant that can settle the body through balancing cannabinoids is cannabis, because it has cannabinoids, you know. It's such a, you know, it's a double-edged sword of a plant that has those benefits, but then has the other challenges, the psychosocial issues. But the plant itself has many varieties. And there is one that majorly features cannabinoids that are important and has trace amounts of the THC that is bad. But now, since they look alike, it's very difficult to know who is using the bad one and the good one, in a sense that the country needs legal frameworks to protect the public. Because when you look at the bad side of it, I'm telling you, it can explain the youth going into crime, weird things happening. Yes, America, which really used to be the headmaster on this plant, lifted in 2018 because I'm sure they have issues of cancer challenges, because cannabis can handle cancer, and you know. So they lifted, but of course, by the time they lifted that ban on the plant, they had already done their infrastructure of research and regulation. So now for us, as a country, we first and foremost have to look at regulation. We have some legal framework under internal affairs, but then when it comes to medicines like under NDA, there is a caption that it's only the Minister of Health who should give authority. But there is need for another regulation that was being worked on under the previous government, which I believe will be picked up again in the new government. What were they working on? How to see that they could put a regulatory framework to research on cannabis for purposes of getting medical cannabis. Because countries that are well endowed in terms of infrastructure have already come out with a publication regarding how cannabis can be a game changer in COVID-19. So as a country, we can easily pick on such research and repeat it here, yeah, but it has to come under a regulation. So the people out there, touching cannabis to use it in any way is illegal. It's as simple as that, until when this comes out clear, yeah, regarding, I think that's...
Yeah, what of this other plant? I just need basic advice. In the current
is it,
situation.
there is Mairunji? Is it Mairunji?
Not Mairunji. There is this marijuana and the purple flowered. What is your advice?
Yes,
for
my
now?
advice for that purple flowered. At Wandegea, we've already started looking at it and looking at what you should mix with it to negate or to remove the side effects. We are working in partnership with a long-term acquaintance from Gomba. We have a lady there, because each place we have a link person. You know, these people know these things, and this person will tell you they've been managing COVID using that same plant, but they add, we found she adds 10 others. And we have a pharmacist on board, our trial pharmacist. We engaged him to optimize, and he realized the lady doesn't need to add all the 10, you know? Because again, when you have to add so many, there is no assurance you will always have those many plants. So far so good. We've come up to, I think she should have just add just 3. We were trying to work on it to get it notified by NDA so that people can access it as a tonic, you know. And because normally we're also guided by what's happening in town. So when we saw what's happening, we really picked it at that point, and we're optimizing. You'll find that it can be packed as a herbal tea in a tea bag, can be done capsules, but there should be a mixing with other ingredients. So the way we are really handling it very fast, and it's already known, its origins, it's a European plant. We shall come out with the results in the coming 2 weeks. Give to NDA. NDA, its maximum operation on a product is 3 months.
Thank you. Let's now take it there from to NDA to sum up the questions. And okay, because there is one thing that to say there are components which might encourage. So what would you advise people for now as you do your research and as we await your notification?
The people, we are set there to guide public on even getting to know the identity of a plant. Come to us with your plant, and we guide you on the real name. We work with Makerere University Botany. It's the authenticator in the country. Because you can easily pick something looking like, and it's not that. It starts from there. Because if you pick a wrong material, dangers, there is a plant I talked of, Wabugia uganensis, which is really quite effective on many things. But you take, let me say, 1/10 of a teaspoon. Even 1/10 is big, but you may find somebody taking a teaspoon. That person will wake up dead with a burst heart. So come, we have a fraternity of botanists who are just specialized in letting you know whether what you call Kalunsambulida, if it has purple flowers, it means something different. If it has white flowers, it means something different. So start with identity, because dangers can be real with herbal medicine. There is stramonium, there is some product which is called stramonium. It has lots of alkaloids. People normally use it in poisoning people at drinking places, and they die. So medicinal plants should not be played with. Some can really be lethal.
Thank you. Let's go to NDA. We have learned of all that. You've had all the questions, and there are more here to do with prescriptions. How do you monitor how these drugs are being dispensed? I was in Morocco, in Rabat. I had sort of a headache. When I went to the pharmacy, they told me we shall not give you a drug so long as you come with a prescription. I had to bear with my headache. Why doesn't that get done here, and why isn't it enforceable? So let's see how you respond to the set of questions you have. And is there any study about drug introduction, especially the period when people are using both conventional and herbal? How do you regulate the dosage of herbal medicine? All these questions are for NDA to see how best, and mainly on the issue of Covidex, where you came out and issued a statement saying this drug had not been approved by NDA. But the real fact is that this drug is in homes. People are giving testimonies. So what has NDA done to ensure that they follow up this specific product, which is now, I can say, on the black market? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eneviana, and thank you, Dr. Grace, for giving a detailed view on the natural plants and their use. Quite a number of questions, but I'm going to go really, I'll break them down and try to address most of them. First and foremost, and the question came through on self-medication. I think my colleagues really try to describe the dangers of self-medication. And as a public, I request that we, as much as possible, avoid self-medication. Why? The dangers were alluded to. There are some benefits, but when the risk supersedes the benefit, then you'd rather not to. I'll go to some of the common medicines people have been picking and give you just a tidbit, little. Let's think about a drug like dexamethasone that people have been picking all over the place. Dexamethasone is quite an interesting drug that can be used during the management of COVID patients. And I must say before I even continue that as of now, there is no confirmed treatment for COVID-19. And I'm hoping we are clear on that. There is no confirmed treatment. So that's why I'm using the word management. So during the management, they use they use dexamethasone. But the reason they use it is not the reason people are using it off the counter. Dexamethasone as a drug itself has a way it reduces one's immunity. Now, you're trying to fight a viral disease that needs to find your immunity when it's up there. Now, you're taking a drug that's going to push your immunity down. I don't know if you see you're causing yourself more trouble than good. 2, I'll go to zinc. When you take a lot of zinc, I know Winnie alluded to some of the issues, but zinc itself, when you take a lot of it, you're going to find yourself having trouble while using other drugs. Some of them antibiotics, they may not be able to work effectively because you're taking zinc. So some of those issues need to be highlighted so that people can know exactly where we are at. So self-medication, the other way, expenditure. Think about it. Self-medication, we said, it comes when you self-diagnose, you think about your ailment, you go and buy what you think is going to work for you. Trust me, when it's wrong, you're spending money for nothing. Despite the other issues, but even you're going to spend, and for those who use insurance, you're also spending money for other people that could have used for other ways. So self-medication can be avoided, let it be avoided. What can we get and what can't we get? As a country, we've classified our medicines. We've classified our medicines into different classes, and each class can be obtained from a drug outlet or a medicine outlet depending on where it falls. We have the class A, the class B, and the class C. So products in class A, those ones, a no-go. You can't get them without a prescription. Class B, same story. Now class B is divided into B1 and B2. Now, B1, a no-go, and that's why the likes of azithromycin fall. Why shouldn't you just take azithromycin anyhow? Just imagine you have a problem with your heart, and then I'm giving you azithromycin without checking your heart. I'm causing more trouble than the solution you're getting from azithromycin. So that's the reason we put it in such a place. Then B2 are products that you may be able to get with a prescription of a pharmacist in that outlet. Then you have the class C, which can be gotten easily over the counter. So I thought I should also put that out clear. Then now I know everyone wants me to talk about the issue of COVID-19 and all that. COVID-19 as a disease, as of now, the whole world, we are still learning. We are still learning. And many things, and I know for sure, the media friends which were here, you know, where we started from a year and a half ago is not where we are in terms of the therapies that we are using. A lot has changed, and a lot is going to change as we go on. So that means that a lot of things are under study. And remember where I started from, I said the reason for regulation is to ensure safety. The primary role, safety, efficacy, and quality. Now, regulation did not come out of the blue. There were mistakes that were made. They were not, I call them mistakes because these products were given to people and then grave dangers happened. But the people who put them out as the people did not intend to cause danger. The same story happens to us now. When we consume products which are not regulated, the person putting out the product does not intend to harm you. But it's important that in between there's someone who double checks. And this double checking is done together. Are we safe? Are we absolutely safe when we use this product that you've developed? So we need that guard. We need that control in between there, between the producer and the consumer. And as such, as a National Drug Authority, for all products, whether local or international, we always put that safeguard. We need to assess your product. We need to check for your product. We need to look through your product. And this is done with you. We assess and find the quality, the safety of that product using different models. I may not explain all these models now. So this applies to all products. So we cannot let one product away or other products away and then we leave others to pass. So all products that come in have to undergo through this. And I must say, as of now, many products are running out there. But for those who really have the intention and love for this country, they've come out and say, okay, here's my product. I think it has this. Can we work together and see if this can be sorted? And I must also confirm that the proprietor of Coffee-Dex has also come and said, okay, maybe there is this product, I developed it this way, can we look at it together? And we must say, we are not the alpha and omega, but we discuss this thing and we look at the science, but our primary role is to make sure that the person who is going to use the product is safe. And when we've agreed with the developer at that level, the product will be authorized in the country. But as of now, that process has started and it's ongoing. So I think there should be no worries on that. Then two, someone indicated local products usually take longer compared to conventional medicines. That's not true. It's not true at all. Interesting, even local products actually are worked on, are usually given priority. You'll find even some of their fees for some of the activities that we do are subsidized, meaning we encourage local research, we encourage local production, and we encourage local products. Then someone said, how far are we going in regulation of dispensing in the market? Yes, we are working with the professional bodies. The president, the PSU will tell you that collaboration is there to ensure that the professionals who are in these medicines outlets do what's right. When we come and give you the license, we come knowing that the place is safe for the medicine, the person in there is competent enough to know what to give and when to give and whom to give. And usually all these outlets they conform to all those expectations, and that's how we give them the licenses. Things change somewhere, somehow, and this runs to the professional councils of the different health experts to be able to address such challenges. But as a National Drug Authority, we also work hand in hand. And actually, when we go there, when we do our monitoring, like I indicated, we do monitoring. Sometimes when we find some of these gaps, we address them immediately. But the professional councils have a big role to play to assess, to make sure this is corrected. Then the final question I had, I think, was on emergency approval. National Drug Authority and Uganda as a country, we are not an island. We work in a global community. And if the global community has an emergency procedure, as a country, we do also have emergency procedure. And where an emergency calls for emergency approval, we have a regulation and a guidance on how we do it. And that exists, and it happens, and we've used it before. And we still use it. But there's clear guidance on how it's used and how it's used. So it's not that we don't have that, we have it, and it's out there. When there's need, we apply it. And for those who wanted to know what is available, what's notified, you can go on to our website, the National Drug Authority website, go to the register, you'll see the number of products that have been notified, especially in the herbal medicine sector. Finally, I need to communicate this. We've been talking about side effects. For those of you who might be getting side effects and you need to get to someone, please get to National Drug Authority. There's a toll-free line you can access through this. And that number is 0800 101 999. 0800 101 999. If you're getting issues with all medicines, please call that number and you get support that we give as a National Drug Authority. So I think I've answered most of the questions. I hope I've not left it anyone.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm not yet convinced with the question on Covidex because we are well aware that the product is being manufactured. And also the product is in home spreading like a bushfire. What is NDA's position since you're engaging, and how quick shall we get feedback from NDA as it engages with the developer? Because now if you're saying your mandate is ensuring safe and efficacious drugs, and now we have a product that is already on the market, so where is your role and how do you come in? Have you done any operations to know who are transporting this drug? I know there was a statement from the university, Bara University Science and Technology. There was also a statement I saw from the developer of the product. But the fact remains that the product is in people's homes. So what emergency intervention have you done, and such that we advise the general population appropriately? That is the answer we are waiting from NDA. So if we are using it, those ones who are using it, are they safe at the moment? Thank you.
I'll make this very clear and very simple. I've said the reason NDA is in between a producer and a user is to ensure safety. And if NDA has not come out to tell you this product now is notified for use in Uganda, then you're using a product that has not, a product whose safety has not been ascertained by the body that is responsible for doing that. I think that would be my quick answer to that. I must say, I think we have teams out there, and I think if you went out to a pharmacy and said, I want Covidex, you may not find it on the shelf, or you may not even find it now in pharmacies, I'm sure. Right now, it's not in pharmacies. It's going into what you, I think I alluded to, black market and all that. But there are teams out there who are monitoring this to ensure that this product is controlled. So be sure at least we are doing that role to make sure your guns are safe.
Okay, let's cross over to Dr. Nambatia of something, because we need guidance, someone who is using, because many people have been asking for this link, yes, to join this meeting, specifically to know how they proceed, because I know people have stocks of this product. So we need assurance that something is being done and people will be getting a way forward. Let's have Dr. Nambatia, then we shall have the president of the Pharmaceutical Society and other members answering their questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost winding up, but we are still taking a round of questions, and we thank people who have joined us through the Zoom platform, people who are following this discussion on YouTube, and it's basically brought to you by Twaweza in partnership with the Ministry of Health, Health Promotion, Education and Communication Department, and also the Public Relations Unit. Thank you. And also we are joined by the NDA Public Relations Manager. You're welcome, Abias Ruamwirima. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to make a comment because I promised that after the ones I call authorities in regulation say something, I could come in and say something. And this is my comment on COVIDX. I'm commenting from the angle of one who has had a patient and used COVIDX on this patient. We have a relative who's been in ICU, and we're a big family, so people come with interventions, and one of them came with COVIDX. The proprietor was my staff member. I know him so well, and I respect him. He has published, he has put things on the market. And, well, like my colleague said, that in the pandemic, you know, people try this and that. Probably it may have slipped into the market before going through because the proprietor knows exactly what should be done. Because if I say he doesn't, then I would sort of dilute his title as professor. So I took care to read the label as one who knows what should really, and on the label, at least one of the ingredients, Wabugia ugandensis, I know it very well. And I know it's a serious herb, you know. And there is indication, of course, there is some other plants, but at least Wabugia. Once I saw Wabugia, I knew this must be effective. But I know that at the same time, it should be, the regulator needs to know the dosage, given its sensitivity. And one of the way you have to give it, you put in the nose, you put in the throat. And there had been lots of testimonies, people, you know, saying the patient gets okay fast, and which, well, people say, and I'm sure they were saying what they were seeing. But now for me, on this patient, what I noted, this was a patient in ICU, or high dependence unit. When it was put in the nose, this was a 79-year-old patient. He almost, you know, it was really bad. And she developed this stuff. If you're putting that in the nose, so I told the people administering, if a patient tells you something, because maybe this product is not yet regulated, we can at least respect the patient. So my explanation to why this could maybe have happened, in COVID, there is inflammation and dryness. When people talk of COVID, but if you've been near a patient and your own, you know, when it's your own, you may even forget, you know, there is that dryness of membranes. And I think if something has Wabugia and it's dosed into the membrane, Wabugia has a peppery taste. For those who know the plant, you chew the leaf and it has chili. It's like chili. But in the mouth, the patient felt fine, and the patient improved. So what is my prayer? Maybe this dosage form should not be administered in the nose for COVID because of the dryness there. These are things we need to really look into. The product is supposed to be good because even the other ingredient I've not talked about is a renowned medicinal plant that is really great. But now the formulation administration, COVID is new. We know there is dryness. Even if we put in the throat and it's a dry throat, what happens? I think NDA's policing, I'm part of NDA. Now we are discussing, we need to get beyond just seeing where it is in the outlets there. I'm talking from the angle of having used on a close relative. But the ingredients indicate this could be a great product. So expedited system in NDA is there. We also benefited from it. Let this be expedited because the product can benefit so many people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we hope we shall be hearing from the National Drug Authority very soon about the product because now it is what is in the public domain. So the public relations manager and also the technical person who came, Mr. Brian, we hope we shall be hearing from NDA in the coming weeks. Let's have Pamela Achi, who is the president of the Pharmaceutical Society, and we are glad as Twaweza and Ministry of Health that we've been able to have this forum. And I can assure you there has been public demand to an extent that the Zoom availability was full before the engagement started. But we are glad that there is an option of YouTube. We are streaming live on YouTube. And also the media houses will be relaying this information. And we hope that the Pharmaceutical Society will make available time to respond to the emerging questions and some which require really policy formulation and also legislation. You're welcome to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Aine. Good afternoon once again. I will start with Covidex. And I think Covidex is a product we need to be bold about and face it. When this product got into the market, you had and received a number of information and notification that was released by different authorities, including the National Drug Authority and universities, and also the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda that I lead. And indeed, NDA has the responsibility to maintain product safety. The Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda works closely with the National Drug Authority to make sure that the drugs that we use are actually safe for human use. And with that, something like Covidex would actually fall along those lines. You have heard Dr. Grace speak about scientific research and clinical trials on medicines, that most of these processes are based on conventional white man processes. And therefore, when you have a herbal formulation, you try to test it against those clinical trials methods. And sometimes you have to tweak or may not necessarily go very well, meaning that we need to think deeper on how we actually conduct trials on herbal medicine and maybe certain modifications that have to be done. That said, Covidex, when you look at the label, and Grace has mentioned as well that the main active ingredient of Covidex is a product called berberine. And berberine, some research have been done on this product, not necessarily in Uganda, but also in other places. And it indicates that it's actually effective in managing viral replication for COVID. And that is the fact about the active ingredient in Covidex, that it acts against the virus. Now, that said, you have the active ingredient, but how do you formulate it to make sure that this ingredient can actually perform what it's intended to do? And I must say, Professor has been in research in herbal medicine for a long time, and Covidex is not the only product Professor has developed. We have an anti-malarial that is developed. We have also medicine for management of sickle cell, and now Covidex, which is actually available. To slightly digress is that in pharmaceutical drug design and development, and in a situation like a pandemic like this, there are times when certain drugs are approved for emergency use or compassionate use, meaning that we have weighed the benefits against risk of this formulation, and therefore the drug may go into use. And many of the vaccines have been approved under emergency. But that means that even when a drug is approved for emergency use, studies must continue to document certain events or adverse effects that may not have been identified at the time the drug is released. At the level of a national regulatory agency like National Drug Authority, we do what we call post-market drug surveillance. That means that when a drug is released into the market, what else, what adverse events do people report as far as this medicine is concerned? It's a standard process for all drugs. And in fact, through that process, sometimes we may have drugs recalled and deregistered. It happens. It happens many times, and it has actually been going on for a number of time. That said, we have this herbal formulation called Covidex, which of course we see that it has berberine, and berberine is active actually against COVID. And the product has been formulated, but for lack of a better word, this product, we found it in the market. And we found in the market, and those who have used it are saying, we are getting relief. And we are in a situation where we don't have alternative medicine to cure this disease. So we have a moral dilemma and a moral obligation. Should you stop, for example, the manufacture and use of this medicine because we have not had all the clinical trial processes done, while at the same time there are people who are benefiting from this formulation? This is the moral obligation. So as I speak now, we are in a situation, in a crisis, where we see that, well, this drug has not gone through the clinical trial, and it is true. I will say that Covidex, a week ago, the proprietor applied for what we call a product notification. And this is what ND has been saying, that when you go into her register, you will find what is notified. The proprietor has applied, has filed to notify this product. There are a number of questions and clarification, definitely, that a regulator would ask you. I need additional information, please provide XYZ. And that is the stage where the proprietor is providing this additional information as far as Covidex is concerned. In addition to that, as a society, we have come up to support, because this is local innovation, and as pharmacists, it is our responsibility to research on medicine and come up with formulations that can benefit people. So we can't abandon this product. We will do everything possible to support a proper clinical trial. And that said, we have a task force that has been formed to actually develop protocol on the clinical trial. And that was completed yesterday. And with that, it will be submitted to the research and regulatory agencies that will approve this protocol, and then it will go into a clinical trial, and we'll get results from that study. That is what is happening as far as Covidex is concerned. But again, we have this product available with the people. We are saying that since this product, people are saying they are getting relief, should you stop producing and manufacturing, or let people try this product, use it? If they get relief, that is very good. That is on one side. But on the other side, we will do everything possible as far as clinical trials are concerned to see that we document all information as far as Covidex is concerned. So this is basically what is happening. Of course, there's some information on guarding the use of the product. I know that many people have gone to buy this product in bulk. I must say, even if it's a herbal formulation, buying in bulk is an abuse. At least the proprietor has made it possible to provide some information on dosing of this product. And we need to follow that instruction. People are buying and taking to supermarkets. Supermarkets are not places to sell medicine. And that is where we go wrong as far as the regulator is concerned. Still, as a COVIDEX, we must follow the local regulation as far as manufacture, distribution, and use of this formulation is concerned. I feel, besides the benefits that everybody is reporting, a few adverse events may happen because of this active ingredient. One is that if you're a diabetic patient, this drug actually reduces the blood sugar significantly, which then could throw someone into a state of what we call hypoglycemia. So it must be used with caution in individuals like that. And of course, also in pregnancy, the safety is not yet very well validated, and someone has to take caution. And for me, that said, I want to appreciate everybody who is supporting local research and local innovation to find local cure. And COVIDEX is one such product that we need to open our eyes and do everything possible to support its research. We are not claiming it is the ultimate cure, but whatever it is doing now, good enough. Let people benefit from that. But that said, we are following all regulatory processes to make sure this drug undergo all the approvals and is actually provided in the market for use. I'll stop at that as far as COVIDEX is concerned. Very briefly, someone mentioned about drugs that can be made available for a normal person who can not afford the very expensive formulation. If you look at Ministry of Health guidelines, it is not just for COVID. Ministry of Health issues treatment guidelines, and these treatment guidelines are well thought through guidelines for management of diseases in Uganda. And it is unfortunate that sometimes when these guidelines are issued, it seems to only be used for public sector or public facilities. But it is meant for the entire country. And most of these formulations are not too expensive in terms of use. And I can tell you a strip of vitamin C used to be 500 shillings. If it has increased, it is probably about 1,000. Zinc is equally a very affordable product. So in terms of the guidance Ministry of Health has provided, this drug is readily affordable and accessible to an ordinary Ugandan. It is. Thirdly, to comment on someone talking of a combo, you go to buy zinc and someone tells you, no, I want it with vitamin D. In medicine, we have sometimes, or many times, what we call a co-formulation or a fixed dose combination treatment. In this fixed dose, it means two or more drugs are combined into one to form an effective formulation. And mainly, the idea is to reduce on the pill burden. So when you go to a pharmacy to buy medicine, you'll find zinc alone, and you'll find vitamin D alone, but you may find this product as a combination and was only made simply to make it easy for someone to take. That doesn't mean there's a quality issue with that. However, the person providing it to you needed to explain that I have this in combination, and therefore someone should be able to actually access this formulation. I beg to stop here and probably direct it to the moderator to see if there are other questions to answer. We apologize if there are questions we missed to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pamela. I see Dr. Nambatia with her hand up. We can give her an opportunity, and also an opportunity to Winnie and Peter to make any maybe closing remarks about today's subjects. I don't know what has happened to Prof. Maybe we would have been glad to have Prof. I don't know who is in touch with Prof. To share with us some of the information he would have had for us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ainebiona. I would like to follow up with just a little comment regarding what Pamela has just intimated. I believe in this country, nobody denies that I'm one of those great supporters of herbal medicine and research. Yeah, so I'm going to talk from that angle and as one leading a study in a sense that I think what may have caused the challenge, probably the name implied cure, and people are desperate because there are many herbals out there they've not claimed cure, and they are there. And as people doing this research funded by the state, I've been in constant touch with His Excellency, and this is what he wants. For such like COVIDX, for me, I'm guiding regarding what I know the head of state wants. Deliver it to designated systems where you've agreed in writing, so that you have a tracking system regarding who is taking, what are the issues, like the issues I've shared, because even as the product we are working on, because it was a community product, we give it out from only our center, but we've been guided to identify organized places, of course, pharmacies, and then be getting a feedback, because now today my patient who had an issue has nowhere to report. NDA will not. So the control, the traceability, and it will support the clinical trial greatly because there will already be data in that regard. So for me, I think that system can work, because from the onset, as a country, we said we don't want to do it Madagascar style. That one, the HE keeps talking about it. I don't have authority to talk about him, but I felt if this was to inform public, you know, the product can be really great, but we should get data coming in, and we can start with epicenters. For me, because today somebody has bought, I think currently, the formulator intended it to be very affordable, but I think now it's at 30,000. And of course, once that one comes in, you be sure of counterfeits coming in. Thank you. I can rest my case there.
Do you have any comments to make? Let's have closing remarks from Peter, Winnie, and any other remarks. I don't know whether we shall have someone from Twaweza to also make closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Aineviona. And what I can just say is that as a country, we need to try to avoid self-medicating. It's really dangerous. And one of the questions that you had before is that you were afraid of having any cardiac problems because you had azithromycin. And when azithromycin or any other controlled medication is prescribed by a doctor, usually they write a duration that you have to take this medication and the frequency. So it's best to follow that frequency and duration that the doctors have prescribed. And in case you don't find any changes in your condition, you need to consult with your doctor. Or when you're at the pharmacist, you need to call out or consult with your pharmacist. And there was also another question of whether zinc and vitamins should be avoided. That one I alluded to it, that they should not be avoided because they're part of the guidelines. However, we need to get prescriptions from the doctors because long-term use of all these vitamins, though they seem simple, may bring about long-term complications with our health. Thank you.
We can hear from Peter, his last word, and also in case he has any question, maybe the other panelists have missed answering.
Okay. Thank you. Again, I'll just re-emphasize that many times when we have a sick loved one, people tend to be worried and emotional, but we need to rationally use medicines, whether they are herbals, whether they are Western medicines, whether it's non-medical interventions like social distancing, steaming. At least let's have a family member who tries to maintain a rational mind, such that we do not put someone, you do not save him today and kill him tomorrow, if you understand what I'm saying. Eh? Yes, that's it from me.
Thank you. Let's have Dr. Grace, then we have Pamela and also Abias from NDA as some important information to pass. Then we shall have closing remarks from the representative of Twaweza. I'll also give some information on the vaccination exercise.
Yeah, I have 3 points as my closing remarks. As we try out these herbals, which seem to be doing something, they should be with standard of care. There is some form of standard of care regarding the stage of COVID. So whoever is getting out to try something, it should be together with standard of care. Number 2, the naming should not be alarming to drive away people from the care that is available, because COVID could be propagated by probably something else. Number 3, the WHO guide, there is a new WHO guideline on clinical evaluation of herbal medicines that has been made very friendly. And when I received it as the focal office, the very first person I shared it with was Professor Guang. It makes it so easy. It's no longer measuring against the yardstick of synthetic medicine. So we have no excuse really not to use this. And notification takes maximum 3 months. The fee is just 10,000, and Professor can answer back those queries. It's the herbalists who take long, and then they end up saying that NDA takes long. Thank you. Those are my closing remarks. Keep safe, keep healthy.
Thank you. Let's have Pamela. Do you have anything to add?
Quick one to mention that as the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda, we strongly support local research in pharmaceutical health products. We also thank the leadership. We thank different government agencies that are supporting local research in pharmaceuticals, because this is the only way we can grow as a country to find local solution. That said, COVIDEX will follow the specific guidelines on clinical trial for herbal medicine, which NDA has ably provided. And we will support the proprietor of COVIDEX to do that. We will do that. We thank our regulator, which is the National Drug Authority. I think the spirit is very good to support this local product and ensure that every form of support is provided to make sure that we can see this product grow. To the general public, we thank you for observing SOPs. Those that are unwell and using COVIDEX, we ask you to follow the instruction, the bare minimum information that has been provided on the product leaflet, and avoid abuse of this medicine and rampant buying. To the community pharmacies that are selling medicine, it is a difficult time. We ask you to regulate and manage prices of medicine, because this is the same people we are treating, and we should not take advantage of the public. We can still make that profit even when medicines are sold at standardized prices. Lastly, to families, we know many people have bought medicine. We ask you to use proper disposal mechanism for your medicine. Soaking it probably in water or maybe disposing it in a water can will help you to dispose of medicine after this COVID. Do not keep unused medicine in the house. Syrups should not be opened for too long. For some of them, we have maximum of 1 month, but people take this even for longer period of time. Please take caution and let us fight this COVID together. As PSU, Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda, we are committed to ensuring safety of medication among the people of Uganda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pamela. We can have Mr. Wamirima make some clarification on behalf of NDA.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm just, I wanted to share thank you, Emma. I wanted to make some little clarification. NDA for some good time has been turned into a punching bag on social media by people thinking we are trying to curtail the production, the development of COVIDX. And like Pamela Ebri mentioned, and my colleague Isaac, NDA was the first one, after learning, the sale of COVIDX, engaged the professor and his team. That was on 14th, in the morning before we released our press release, which professor, acknowledged and agreed that he was going to follow the registration process, the notification process. We're not talking about clinical trials. We are only talking about following the minimum basic safety procedure. Now, when he went back on the 15th of June, he put an application. NDA took this as a matter of urgency and responded with concerns on 17th. I want to clear this because people think out there NDA is here to curtail with foreign interests and conventional medicine to make sure that COVID doesn't go through. I shared this in one of my opinions yesterday in newspapers. But what we shared with Professor are the comments which we can't discuss here because of he is our client and this is very critical information. But I wanted to clarify that we are not asking Professor to first do clinical trials. We are saying first we just let this medicine pass the first step before it goes into the market. It is 10 days now. We haven't received the feedback. As Dr. Nambate said, he is able, he's not a herbalist, he's a professor. He should be able to answer questions that are basic. Because if it was being busy, the medicine shouldn't be in production because it takes more time for you to produce than to answer questions. So I want the public to know that we are not trying to prevent COVIDX. We are saying, please, can you first just notify, like Doctor mentioned and everyone mentioned, we started from self-medication. And when the medicine is not notified to be allowed into the pharmacies, it means we are going back, Dr. Pamela. We are going back from where we started. Provided it is not in drug shops, it is going to be in people's homes. We are going to have all the challenges we talked about here, and we'll have wasted our time. So why don't you as pharmacists, instead of working on the protocols of clinical trials, why don't you start from what is needed so that we solve the issues of self-medication, of having drugs in people's homes, instead of being in drug outlets where people can be helped to know, and then we can be able to track. We're not saying first do all these expensive trials. We're saying just do a basic one. He went and removed the gravest crimes of prevention and treating, which we applaud, but also take that measure and have the medicine notified so that it is in places where medicine should be, and people be able to know how to take it, and then we can be able to address issues of side effects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope the general public who has heard from the experts from the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda, from the National Drug Authority, and also from the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute. We hope that the processes that are required to be followed by any innovator or any researcher will always follow the due process. And also, we hope that the National Drug Authority will subsequently, in the coming days, get in touch with the proprietor of COVIDX to ensure that all the unanswered questions are answered. Because we are at desperate times, and what is important is the free flow of information. So let's have the information. I hope that NDA will be in the coming weeks address a brief on how far they've gone with the developer of this COVIDX. such that the public is not kept in the dark. And it's good that some active ingredients have been highlighted, some potential side effects have been highlighted. That is all the public wants to know. To what proportions can I consume, for instance, those small bottles of Covidex? Because now that it is on the black market, is there like batch codes? How can people, for instance, provide information on either the successes or on the side effects? All that is what the public wants to be guided on, and they will be supportive because we also want to have our indigenous and locally developed products. So the public is encouraged to use the toll-free line provided by NDA to ask or provide any information on the product. However, we should be cognizant that, like any other pharmaceutical products, it has side effects if you've not consulted a qualified medical or a professional medical doctor. I was yesterday at Chirudu to do a medical checkup, and one of the issues I had wanted as a patient was to do a chest CT scan. But because I was first attended to by a doctor, he advised it is not necessary to also be exposed to those rays from time to time. There is a time frame you need to take. So I ended up not doing the chest scan, because when I recovered from COVID in November, I think after like 3 weeks, I did a chest CT scan, and it indicated that my lungs had not been very involved to the COVID treatment, was not involved as far as the disease is concerned. So when I went back with an interest of doing, as a patient, you can also want to know based on what you're reading. And now there are a lot of scientists on social media or on Google. So sometimes as a patient, you might have those unanswered questions. Because I went to hospital wanting to know, how does my chest look like about 7 months after battling COVID? And I know there are several many patients who out there with unanswered questions. So we shall always get them and get experts answer these questions. But most important is, before you take any decision to take any medication, at least consult a professional medical doctor, because sometimes you might find you're contributing to the situation worsening, as opposed to when you consult a doctor for proper advice. And I'm glad yesterday I was attended to when I had gone purposely for a CT scan, and the doctors advised against me taking it, and I also heeded to their advice. So we are glad. We will call closing remarks from our co-partners in the organization of this event, but also want to take off time to thank people who have joined us through the social media platform. We've been supported by the Government Citizen Interaction Center, GCIC, which is an open government initiative to ensure that Ugandans get information. So I also like to thank the National Drug Authority for being present. I would like to thank the Pharmaceutical Society. I would also like to thank the journalists who have come to cover this briefing, and we hope to have several of these expert-led briefings as the Ministry of Health to demystify some of the myths and the fake news and disinformation that is making rounds. And these experts will always be available. You can always reach us as the Ministry of Health if you need further clarification for your audience. And I know very many people would be asking for Uganda, so I request my panelists, those ones who are capable of summarizing what we have discussed, to give some more time to the journalists to give the Uganda view, because most of our audiences understand better Luganda and other local languages. So please create some time. Let me invite our colleague from Twaweza to give closing remarks before I call I call an end to this briefing.
Mr. Moderator, and really for me my role is to really thank each one of you in the room. The experience we've gathered today really shows us that
sorry, we have some feedback.
The last time I checked, we had 200. For Africana, you have about 40. This means that this conversation we just had, the information the experts have just shared with us, we just need to take it out there and keep people informed so that they make the right decisions as we deal with the pandemic. I want to thank you for painting a picture of hope. And clearly, I see us mounting this problem of COVID-19. Special thanks to the National Planning Authority, to the National Drug Authority. Special thanks to the Pharmaceutical Association of Uganda. Special thanks to the Natural Chemotherapeutics Center. And of course, special thanks to the center, to the Government Citizen Interaction Center, and most importantly, the media partners, the members of the press that have spent a lot of time on this. Our promise is that we will be sharing the recordings with all of you that have shared the email addresses. If you have not, kindly leave it in the chat. And of course, also, we are hoping that this conversation will. And of course, I'd also like to thank my colleague, Martha, for having worked with you, Mr. Inagona, at a very short time and turned around this to make it a success. And Marie for having the invitation. And of course, my colleagues, Risha and Aiden, and everybody else who joined online. We do appreciate. Please, let's continue observing the standard operating procedures. Let's continue sharing the message of hope. But most importantly, let's share this message widely so that people are involved, informed, together.
Thank you very much. I think we have experienced some technical interruption, but at least the bigger part of the closing remarks from Twaweza and Nisisi, we have managed to capture some. And from the Ministry of Health, we appreciate the support rendered to us by Twaweza, all our partners today present, and also those who have spared time to join this conversation. Some brief information is that vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination resumes on Monday, and mainly we are targeting health workers and people who are due for their second doses. In Kampala, each division has 8 vaccination points that are within a walking distance. So if you're due for the second dose, you'll be required to carry your vaccination card to the vaccination center within your proximity, such that you get jabbed, and we hope the exercise will resume in all divisions as planned. In the countryside, the district authorities will be required to communicate where they will be doing outreaches to reach people for vaccination. Since we are very much aware that we are currently in a lockdown situation, and only people can only be reached when the vaccination comes closer to their homesteads. So vaccination will resume, and we are targeting health workers and people for the second dose jab. The rest of the people who would wish to take their first dose, we expect another consignment of about 600 over 600,000 doses, and we hope that this will also handle the first dose for many people who wish to take the vaccine. So let's be patient. The government is in the process of bringing vaccines that will meet all those who are required to get protected. But we're also cognizant that there is a global scarcity and unavailability of these vaccines. Government has placed orders, but we have not been able to get these vaccines on time. But at least we are hopeful that we shall be getting vaccines, including the Sinovac from the about 300 doses from the Chinese government, and also we are exploring other possibilities. So if we are due for our second jabs, let's reach out to the communicated vaccination points. This information is available on the KCCA website, on the Ministry of Health social media handles, and we shall continuously update the general public accordingly, and we would want to appreciate the national medical stores for delivering these vaccines to all the districts, and we hope the process resumes on Monday. I would like to thank you everyone and indicate Twaweza has organized some a la carte lunch if you are able to wait for it to be ready. Thank you all for coming, and I would like to wish you a fruitful weekend. And from myself, I've been Emmanuel Rainebiona, the Senior Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Health. Thank you.